Hello YouTube, Robin Hood Bricks here, and today we're looking at the funny Octopus ride, set 41373. So as I say, this is the funny Octopus ride, a set from this year, 2019, set 41373. It came with 324 pieces and sold for £35 or $40. Now obviously this is a Friends set, you can probably tell from the colour palette used, all these bright colours and pinks and azure blues and so on. But for me, out of all the Friends Fairground sets, this was definitely the best because it was A, the most usable in my city when I get to my fairground, but also one of the most unique in that not only do the elements of the ride go round, but they also go up and down as they follow the course of this blue piping. And I think that makes it a bit different than the normal rides that either spin horizontally or vertically. I also thought that despite the colours being quite bright and in the Friends palette, it would be still palatable given that it is an octopus with its 8 legs in pink, and that doesn't seem ridiculous to me given that an octopus could be pretty much any colour, so it's not that offensive. And I think some rides in a fairground would be appealing more to girls or children or boys or adults than others, so it's part of the mix. And I do quite like these mini builds on the end of each of the arms in that they're different. So we've got a shark, a turtle, a crab, who's very fun, and a clam, and that gives it a lot of variety as well. Lastly, I think the other important point is that this is clearly able to be motorised, and everything in my fairground that is a ride will be motorised in due course, so that's a really important factor for me. So I suggest we have a quick look at some of the features, then go through the amendments I'm going to make, and then get on to the most important bit, motorisation. So first of all, I haven't put on many of the stickers. In fact, I've only really put on the one which is the crab's face, because it kind of needs that mouth in order to give it the character that it's got. But all these hearts and so on, I thought the ride could probably do without. I may put them on later, but they're just decor for around the edging and so on, and that being the main sign on this piece. But I'm not sure I'm going to have individual ticket booths when it comes to my fairground. I think I'll just have, you know, entry to the park and then all the rides are free sort of system, because otherwise you just end up with too many of them, I think. Though I've got to find something to do with this 3D octopus sign, because it's just fantastic, isn't it? Right, so having taken off the side build, I think we can get started. The first thing I need to do is raise this up a little bit to give room for the motor, because obviously the motor is going to need to be on the underside of this ride, because there's no room on the top or in the middle. So I'm going to have to raise this up onto a kind of a test rig so I can work out how to get this motorised the most effectively. And then when I know how it needs to be set up, then I can transfer it into my fairground in due course. So in order to do that, I'm going to take off the entire headpiece. Sorry. And I'm going to take off the entire arms piece. So we're just left with the base. And actually, for convenience, I think I'll take off that as well. Now, at the moment, the Technic axle just goes into this hole and doesn't go all the way through. And we'll need it to go all the way through because we need to attach it to a motor. So we're going to have to change the pieces in this base to allow there to be a hole in the bottom. So if we imagine these bright green plates represent ground level, and I extend out each of the quarters of the base by a stud, leaving a sort of 2 wide cross in the middle, then all I've done is extend, we'll attach these two in due course, all we've done is extend that base by 1 all the way around. So then I can put on this layer of bricks as before, because that's obviously got a gap inside it, so there's no problem with that. And I don't need this Technic brick because I don't want to connect on that side build, so I'll get rid of that and put in another inverted slope. Okay, don't need those bricks. Now this layer doesn't have a hole in either, so what I've done is got some alternative bricks. So I've got this just to hold everything together, and it's all important hole in the middle, and I've got 4 4x4 and 4 corner plates, which I can use to basically represent the old shape. But leave that all important gap in the middle. So that can go on like that. And to give it some support, I'll just add a couple of bricks there. So then I can put it together like that. I can now attach these. And we've got a nice stepped platform which duplicates the one we had before. Right, I'll transfer the rest of this onto here. Right, well that all went on very easily, and you can see now the ride looks practically the same, albeit with this sort of small apron around the very bottom, than it was before. So let's test this with a motor now. So in order to do that, I've just made a little test bed so I can attach a motor underneath this and have this mounted on top going round. And this will either be, when it comes to my fairground, a hill or something else, another feature that will contain this, or I'll just have some space in between my table and ground level in order to accommodate the motor and so on. So the first method I'm going to try is direct drive, so that's the motor just powering the ride directly. And I'm going to use one of these pieces, which you'll recognise maybe from a recent brick haul, which just changes the direction of the motor, because obviously currently it's turning this way, so we need it to be going up. So in order to do that, we'll just use a 2 long Technic pin, 1 cogwheel like that, another one like that, and that piece holds this long rod in position. So I can put that on my test bed and then transfer it through here. All the holes I've made now, it should be able to pass all the way through, and there we go. So I'll push that down firmly, and I'm going to use a rechargeable battery just because it's also got the adjustable speed. So I'll plug that in, so do a quick test. So you can hear that moving, I don't know if you can see it, but it's definitely turning. So let's quickly pop the rest of the ride back on. And we can see it go on different speeds and decide which one of those speeds we want the final ride to go on. Now I'm going to have to improvise with this because I'm just using a long rod axle piece, so it will definitely hold everything together. So it's not perfect yet, but we'll use that for testing. Right, so we better start on a lower level. Oh, that hasn't got enough power to push it round, so we'll step it up, step it up. Oh, there we go, starting to go. And that does look good fun, doesn't it? It's pretty fast. Now the thing is, when you make it any slower, it hasn't got the torque with the reduced voltage to actually turn the motor round. Right, who wants to see it on full speed? I'm going to hang on. Okay, bits fell off. I don't think we can have this one running at full speed. Try it one more time. No, definitely not at full speed. Right, so I think we're going to have to rethink on the methodology of turning this around, because direct drive either hasn't got the torque because we're not using the full voltage of the motor, or it's self-disintegrating, firing cogs out and so on, and bits of the ride because it's going far too fast. So we're going to have to gear it down. So I'm going to not use this method at all, put those parts to one side. Instead, I think I'm going to have to use a worm drive. So the concept of a worm drive, if you don't know, is that for every one rotation, whereas before that would have meant one rotation of the ride, it actually powers only a small movement in a cog, which represents the ride. So if you have one turn of this, it might actually only do about 1/16 of a turn of a cog, or so on. So if I get the right combination of this, I'll be able to have this motor on full speed, but have it only doing a 1/16 of that ridiculously fast speed, but with the full torque. And that's the most important thing, because we need that full voltage of the motor in order to consistently turn that ride round, because there's quite a lot to move and quite a lot of resistance in the tubing and so on. So I'm going to try and set this up next. Right, so here's my worm gear setup. So essentially we've got an axle here powered by the motor, and you can see if I turn it with my fingers as fast as I can, I'm still only turning this cog very, very slowly, because it takes a full turn of this worm gear to just make a small movement in the cog, which ultimately will be connected to the ride. It also produces that 90-degree turn on the axis of motion that we need. So if I plug my motor into this, put it down firmly, I can show you with the full motor going. I mean, you can see how slowly that's turning, but this is on full voltage, so it's going to have a lot more torque. Right, let's put it back together and give it a test. Okay, ready for the second test using the worm gear. It's a bit jerky, isn't it? I mean, it's a much better speed. If you think about being a minifigure on one of these, it looks a lot more comfortable, but it's quite jerky. In fact, I think the jerkiness is caused, and a lot of the noise, by the ride going over these pieces, which are quite bumpy. I wonder if we can improve on those. So here's one of the old pieces. It's quite rough for something smooth to pass over, and surely a replacement that could be a bit smoother is just this setup. So instead of a normal pin with this cross-axle to cross-axle connector. You can use a 2 long pin inside one of those pieces. Let's try that. Okay, so test number 3 with the smoother pieces. That has really cured it of its stutter and a lot of the noise. That's a great improvement. I'm really happy with that. Right, let's get some more amendments just to smarten this thing up. Right, now I'm just making some other changes to the inside of the Octopus, just because I won't be needing this great big turn handle, which was what you used with your fingers to turn the ride, and I can have a lot neater top without it. So in order to get everything right, I'm just putting in the right lengths of Technic axle made up of a few different bits in order to get that perfect fit. Because we need it to be quite robust for when it's going round and round very quickly. Okay, so that seems fairly strong, and we don't need any of these pieces from the inside or these pieces from the top. Right, so that's him pieced together. Now, if we look at the top now, it's quite bare looking. So a couple of pieces I bought recently were a 2x2 round tile in pink, which isn't exactly the same as the body, but it is the same as the colour down here. So that looks quite good, but you can still see all the joins. And I was rummaging through all my other bits and pieces, and I found this very brightly, but very appropriately coloured dish piece, which is obviously some sort of cafe or something like that. And I thought that that looked quite good for the top. And with those stripes, it adds to the factor going round. And then I thought, well, why not do both and have it looking like that? So that's what I'm going to do. Now the last thing I need to do is prepare each of these carriages for normal minifigures and young minifigures, because currently they're set up for mini dolls and there's no studs there to grip on, and if you put any of these on they'll just fall off. So I'm just going to make some slight tweaks to each one. I'm just going to get rid of this coral coloured tile and flip this panel piece around, and that will give me the ability to sit somebody firmly down on the clamshell. Next. Now the shark is practically impossible. Even if you turn that into a 2x2 plate, there's not enough room because of this fin to fit a person on, and then this is a 2x2 curved slope. So it's just practically impossible to put a regular minifigure on. You can try and sort of put somebody on at an angle like that, but I think it looks like he's just about to get disemboweled if he falls forward, and it just doesn't look very safe or good. So I'm just going to have that ride that carriage going around unoccupied. For the turtle, I'm just going to do a similar trick to the clamshell, and I'm just going to flip the panel piece around so it looks like a sort of handle or something, and then have someone just sat directly on. And for the crab, I can't turn this around because it has the mouth on, but I can push it back a bit. So if I just go in here, take out the 2x2 tile again, and then push that in one. That looks good for the crab. And then a young person can just fit directly into there, but he's not quite tall enough, so I'll add a 1x2 plate to his feet and an appropriate orange, and then he's firmly in there. And I think that's all the amendments I need to make. A fully motorised, funny octopus ride. Excellent. So as regular viewers will know, I can't put this into my fairground yet because I haven't started it, and until I know exactly where I'm going to put this, I don't know exactly how I'm going to have to mount it. So you're just going to have to bear with me, and you'll see this in a few months' time probably, when I've got everything else sorted in between there and here. But I do think it looks very good if you imagine this as a single ground level. I think it looks rather fantastic. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be going back into the city centre and doing some shops around the market square. See you next time!